Hello everyone, how are you doing today? As you can tell by the title of the video, I am going to, this is basically a review about this series here, which is the Merry Gentry series by Laurell K. Hamilton. I love this author. And as you can see, my book is ripped. So if anyone knows how to fix this, like without just using tape and making it actually last, please let me know. So yeah, I'm gonna talk about the book, what I think about not just this book. I have basically at the beginning of the year, I decided to read the whole series. There are 9 books in the series. I do not have the last one, however, and I'm gonna try as much as possible not to spoil anything for you guys. I hate spoilers. You know, sometimes I'm like, I want to know. But at the same time, I hate spoilers, so I kind of did it. Oh, I'm sorry. Okay. So, yeah, I hope you enjoy this video. I was thinking of also reading an excerpt, but something that's not gonna be much of a spoiler. So, alright. Basically, I'm going to read the back of the first book just to give you an idea, and then I'll expand on what the series is about and all that stuff. Alright, so Merry Gentry, Princess of the High Court of Fairy, is posing as a human in Los Angeles, living as a PI specializing in supernatural crimes. But now the Queen's assassin has been dispatched to fetch her back, whether Meredith likes it or not. Suddenly, the princess in exile finds herself a pawn in her dreaded aunt's plans, the job that awaits her, to enjoy the constant company of the most beautiful, immortal men in the world, the reward, the crown, and the opportunity to continue to live, the penalty for failure, death. So yeah, basically, Merry Gentry, Princess of Fairy, right? So basically, Mary is not, and that's a huge part of the whole series, she is princess, and she's of royal blood to both fairy courts, right? The Seelie and the Unseelie. But she's not good enough for either of them. They're very aristocratic. They're very bigoted. So all her life, no one's liked her except for her daddy, but her daddy's dead, right? And her dad was the queen's brother, okay? So he was prince. So she's a princess. And they've been like making her look like she's this princess, her life is great, her daddy's nice, and everything's great, right? But behind closed doors, when she's in the fairy mounds, like, they're always like being mean to her, being rude to her, treating her like she's nothing because she doesn't have powers. Like, I mean, like, she can do little stuff like glamour and stuff, but she doesn't have hands of power. And so she's regarded as less than. And finally, after her dad died, people kept challenging her to a duel in order to legally kill her, because you can't kill a princess, like, no. But if you say, oh, I challenge you to a duel, like, it's fair game. And so she ran away because she was like, I can't survive this. I don't have hands of power. These people are powerful. They're old AF. So she ran away. And basically, this is where the first book starts. She ran away and she went to Los Angeles. She was as far as possible because they're in Illinois. The Fairmounts are in Illinois. And so she ran completely wet. She left, right? And so she's hiding. She's using glamour. She's looking like, you know, a regular person. And yeah, she's just always on edge. Can you imagine, like, running for your life? And you can't, and the thing is, she couldn't go to the police because, like, you can't be telling court business because they're basically like a nation within the United States. So you can't be telling court business, fairy business to the police. Like, the queen would punish her. And when I say punish her, I mean corporal punishment, right? So she's over here. She's doing her thing. But they find her. And then the queen is like, I have a proposition for you. The story starts that way. And then the queen sends her assassin, which is her right hand. He's the assassin, but he's also like, you know, everything she needs. Like, she's her most trusted guard. Okay? He's captain of the guard. He's called the Darkness. His name is Doyle, but he's called the Darkness because he's dark. And it's not because like there's no racist connotation to that. I mean, he's dark as in like black as my shirt, and his hair's dark and his body's dark like that. So that's why they call him Darkness. And he hides well in the darkness. Not something racist, but just because it's one of his powers, like, for him to, like, cloak himself in the dark, and, like, you don't notice him until he wants you to notice him. Anyway, so, yeah, that's the story. He comes and he tells her, like, hey, the queen wants you back home, and, as a symbol of good faith, she gave me her ring to give to you, so that anyone that sees you with the ring knows that you have the queen's favor and nobody's gonna try and kill you. And she's like, do I really want to go? But then again, now that the Darkness, now that Doyle found her, that means that anyone else can find her, which means that it's one thing to be in court and having the queen's protection. People will be less likely to try and kill her, but if she's out west, they could just send assassins to kill her and just, like, pretend it was an accident. And since she's been hiding this whole time, nobody knows it's her, right? So, and plus, the way Fairy's set up, she's a she. I know she's a girl, but, like, she's a she. I'll put the spelling. And apparently that's how you spell it in Gaelic. So she's a she, which is, like, basically, like, the top race of all that is fairy, right? So you got she's, you've got brownies, you've got it sounds like food, but it's not. They're just brown people. You've got brownies, you've got pixies, you've got demi-fae, you've got, you know, all kinds of stuff. Okay, so she's a she, and so she's high up there. And basically what happens is, for 3 years she exiled herself, which means she had no touch from another she. And basically, having had the touch of she before and now being deprived of it is kind of like a drug, in the sense that if you're not strong-willed enough, like, you could die from no longer ever having that touch. So she's basically like, she's screaming it, and she's like, well, what do I do? What do I do? What do I do? Okay, well, I'm gonna go. So she decides to go, and she's like, I'm gonna hear what the queen has to say, and if I don't like it, then I'm gonna bounce. See? So, and then the queen tells her, okay, I will step down, okay, for whoever gives me a child first, you or your cousin, my son, Kel. And obviously people don't like that, because they're like, but she's not good enough. Like, she doesn't even have powers, right? And also, she's mortal, okay? These people are immortal. Basically, I mean, things can kill you, but it's very, very hard. Like, and they're powerful weapons that can give true death. But other than that, like, you can literally cut them in pieces and they're still moving. Like, they're immortal, right? But she's not. Which is when we learned that the queen, when she was 6, the queen tried to drown her. Because she was like, well, you're mortal. You don't deserve to live. We're going to drown you. That's your niece. I don't understand. Anyway, obviously the people of the court are not happy about it. So, and then the queen is like, yeah, so I'm going to give you some of the guards, and you have to sleep with all the people. And if you don't, I'm going to make you sleep with them in public, in front of everybody. Yeah, she's a great aunt. Anyway, so I'm not going to try and tell the whole story, but basically this book has so much intrigue. You've got politics on politics, okay? And you've got assassination attempts. Anyway, that's pretty much like what the story is about in the first one. So she starts having guards, and she has to choose who she's sleeping with. So that's kind of like the dilemma of the first book, and then it keeps going until like the end of the series. What I'm going to talk about is the politics. I love the political intrigue in this series. She, Laurell K. Hamilton, Miss Hamilton, she has done, well, Mrs. Hamilton, I guess, because she's married. Anyway, she's done a fantastic job in like setting up the political intrigues, setting up the aristocracy, showing how the court works, the dynamics between servants and between what races of fairy have power and don't. Basically, the shit on top, and everyone else is considered lesser than. And if you're mixed, you're considered lesser than as well. You're not purebred and all that stuff, right? So they're very, 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 very bigoted. That's one of the main themes of the whole entire series, is how like she has to be queen, because if she's not, Prince Kel is going to kill her, because obviously he's not, if he gets someone pregnant first, he's not going to accept that she's still alive. And plus he's been trying to kill her since before. That's why she ran away. So obviously he's going to try and kill her. She has to become queen, not because she necessarily wants to be queen, but because that's how she affords survival. Now she doesn't only have to worry about herself, but she has to worry about her guards as well. So we see the dynamic of the Unseelie court in relation to her. And what I like is that she's very educated, okay? Since they are on top, they don't bother to learn about guys. My camera shut off without me. Is it still on? Is it on? Is it on? Yes, it is. Okay. Sorry. Okay, so my camera shut off while I was blabbing away, and I didn't even realize it. Like, I lost so much time. What is going on? Anyway, I don't know if like it's automatic for it to shut off after 20 minutes or something, but like I was almost done with this video, and then I realized half of it is gone. Anyway, so let me not waste time. And actually, I'm sorry, I'm trying to see if you can see me. I think you can. Okay, good. So, am I good to go? I'm good to go. Alright, so, as I was saying, the she don't like to, they don't care, right? They're on top, so they're like, I don't care what you know, I'm fine. And because she's very educated, she was able to make allies with the lesser fae. For example, her dad made sure that when she was 6 years old, after the queen, his sister, tried to drown Meredith, he took her outside of the fairy mound to live amongst the humans. So he made sure she had public school education, you know, and then she went on to have like a biology degree in college and stuff, university. So she's very well educated. But he also made sure that she was educated in like fairy history and fairy politics and fairy stuff, right? She learned about everything, not just the she and she history. She learned about goblin history. She learned about, like, you know, goblin society and the rules there, the mating rules, the rituals, the, you know, all the stuff that you need to know. Because, I mean, if you think about it, when you're head of state, you need to learn about other countries that you're going to be dealing with. Like, so you don't make a faux pas or you don't alienate your allies. Sorry. So, yeah, I'm sorry, I'm still checking. So, yeah, so there's a good thing that Prince Isis, which is her father, he made sure that his daughter was well versed in all the politics going around. And that's what makes a great ruler anyway. You can't be ruling people you don't know nothing about. You don't know their customs. You don't know their likes and their dislikes. You don't know their culture. You don't know what's important to them, but you want to rule them. Like, obviously, ruling with the Nine Fists has worked, but you kind of plant the seed for resentment to grow and for your allies to not want to be your allies, right? Like, and yeah, she's able to get allies simply by, you know, counting on like people saving face or giving people something that they really want and that they don't have. A lot of the time she had to barter with her body, and I'm not talking about just sex, but I'm talking about literally flesh and blood, and you're gonna be like, what? Just wait until you read it, you will understand. So anyway, because of that, because she felt mostly comfortable with the lesser fae, you know, she's more understanding. She's not as arrogant because, I mean, she was never the best among her own family. Her own mama doesn't like her. So yeah, because of that, she she's more compassionate. She understands things a little better, and she rules differently, which is kind of seen as a weakness. Or, well, it's not like she's ruling yet, but I mean, she is ruling her guards, and it's seen as a weakness. However, clearly the way her aunt is ruling her court is not the right way, because people are afraid, people are terrified, people are just no. And we see a little bit how things work in the Sealy court a little later in the series. However, she considers herself unseelie because that's where she was raised. She spent a few years in the Sealy court, but and people think the Sealy court, they're all golden and pretty and whatever, but it's all an illusion. At least the dark court, the unseelie court, is like they own up to their darkness. And when I mean darkness, I mean vices, or they own up to being scary, right? So, anyway, so there's that. And obviously she could have learned much more if her father hadn't died when she was 17, but she learned enough. And now with the new guards and the new allies she makes, she learns more. She learns along the way and picks up things quicker, which help her deal and navigate through all the politics and the power plays and anyway. So that's that. The only thing that kind of irked me in the series was the fact that coitus happened any and everywhere, which in and of itself, it's not necessarily a bad thing, but when things are falling apart and people are trying to assassinate you and you're running for your life, but you just stop in a hallway and you're like, for some reason I want to touch this man, so I'm touching him, and then boom, sex magic happens. And I understand, because in the book they say that she's descended from 5 different fertility deities, so her powers are based a lot on intercourse, and it's great, but girl, can you I don't know, we should be running right now, not stopping to have sex in the middle of a hallway when we can't see anything and enemies are coming to get us, you know what I mean? So that was something that irked me a little. I was like, oh my god, not again. I was tired for her, okay? Anyway, so the world building, the extensive research into, I guess, they're fairy, right? So it's mostly Gaelic and Wiccan culture, religion. So the extensive research into that, and the way that Hamilton explains the magic, okay? Obviously you can't explain magic all the time because magic is magic. However, there's enough explanation and context, and the way she weaves the pieces of information together, when things happen, you're like, oh, that makes sense, right? She doesn't have to extensively explain it to you, because she she put the groundwork for it, and as the series evolves, you can kind of figure out some stuff for yourself and just be like, oh yeah, this makes sense, so I really like that. And this is the first book. This is A Kiss of Shadows. Again, if you know how to repair a paperback book, let me know. Okay? So now I'm going to read an excerpt from this book. And the first time I tried to do this, before I realized the camera wasn't on, I opened the book and fell on page 216, which is chapter 19 of the book, page 216, like I said. Doyle graciously let me take the window seat. He sat very straight in his chair, hands in a death grip on the arms, seatbelt buckled. He closed his eyes when the plane took off. Normally, I like watching the ground get further away. But today, watching Doyle turn gray around the edges was much more fun. Now remember, Doyle is the captain of the Queen's Guard. He is the best she warrior ever. Okay? He's the Queen's darkness. When she says, "Where's my darkness?" apparently somebody dies or somebody gets tortured. Something bad happens. You know what I mean? Like, he's the best of the best. And here he is, turning gray. Because he's black as my shirt. He's turning gray because he doesn't like. Anyway, let me not. We're just going. "How can you possibly be afraid of flying?" I asked. He kept his eyes closed, but answered, "I'm not afraid of flying. I'm afraid of flying in airplanes." His voice sounded very reasonable, as if it all made perfect sense. "So you could ride a flying steed and not be afraid?" He nodded, finally opening his eyes as the plane leveled off. "I've ridden the beasts of the air many times." "So why do planes bother you?" He looked at me as if I should have known the answer. "It is metal, Princess Meredith. I am not comfortable surrounded by so much man-made metal. It acts as a barrier between me and the earth. And I am a creature of the earth. As you said, Doyle, there are benefits to not being pure she. I don't have a problem with metal." He looked at me, turning just his head. "You can do major arcana within such a metal tomb?" I nodded. "I've never found any magic that I can't perform just as well inside a metal tomb as I can outside of one." "That could be very useful, Princess." The flight attendant, tall, leggy blonde, wearing nearly perfect makeup, paused by Doyle's seat, bending over enough to make sure he got a look at her cleavage, if he wanted it. She'd made sure he had a chance at a view every time she came by his seat. She'd come by 3 times in the last 20 minutes to ask if he wanted anything at all. He declined. I asked for red wine. She brought my wine this time because it was first class Because it was first class, it was actually served in a long-stemmed glass. The better to spill it all over you when the plane hit turbulence, which it did. The plane bucked and swerved so badly that I gave the wine back to the flight attendant, and she gave me a handful of napkins for my hands. Doyle closed his eyes again and kept repeating to all her questions, "No, thank you, I'm fine." She didn't actually offer to throw off her clothes and have sex on the floor of the plane, but the invitation was clear. If Doyle heard the invitation, he managed to ignore it beautifully. I don't know if he actually didn't realize she was hitting on him, or if he was just accustomed to human women acting like fools. I'm sorry. She's okay. She finally got the hint and wandered off. She had to grip the backs of the seats as she moved down the plane, or she'd have fallen. It was bad turbulence. Doyle looked grayish. I think it was his version of turning green. "Are you all right?" I don't think he. He squeezed his eyes more tightly shut. "I will be nice. I will be fine. once we are safely on the ground. Is there anything I can do to help the time pass quicker? He opened his eyes just a slit. I think the stewardess made that offer already. I think the stewardess made that offer already. Stewardess is a sexist term. I didn't know that. I mean, stewardess. Why is it sexist? It's flight attendant. So he did pick up on her hints. I don't think squeezing my thigh and brushing my shoulder with her breasts count as hints. More like invitations. You ignored her beautifully. I have had much practice. The plane rocked violently enough that even I wasn't happy. Doyle squeezed his eyes shut again. Do you really want to help this flight pass more quickly? I owe you at least that much after you flashed your official guard badge and we both got on the plane with our weapons. I know legally we're both allowed to carry in the US, but it doesn't usually go that smooth and that quick. It helped that the police escorted us to the gates, Princess. He'd been very carefully calling me Princess or Princess Meredith since I woke up this morning. We were no longer on a first name basis. The cops seemed eager to get me on the plane. They feared you might get assassinated on their turf. They did not want the responsibility for your safety. So that's how you got me on the plane armed. He nodded, eyes still closed. I told them that with only one bodyguard, it would be safer if you yourself were armed. Everyone agreed. Sholto had dropped off the Lady Smith 9mm. I actually had an inner pants holster for it that fit nicely for front cross draw. I usually wore it at my back, covered by a jacket, but the police had given me carte blanche to carry weapons, so I didn't have to worry about hiding it. I had a 10-inch knife in a side sheath, the tip of which was tied around my leg with a leather thong for a fast draw with an Old West gunfighter. The leather thong also made the sheath fit the movement of my leg better. Without a sheath tied off, you ended up having to move it every time you shifted position or it tended to poke into your body or get caught on things. I had a Spyderco folding knife clipped over the underwire of my bra. That's nice. I want a knife clipped over the underwire of my bra. So I just be like, oop, there you go. I mean, they have to be used for something, right? I mean, they're there. Might as well use them as a pocket, something. You know what I mean? I hate folding money into my bra because I find like the paper is like really rough and like it pokes my boobs, which is ouch. But a knife on like that is so clever. I need one of those. Anyway, sorry. Okay. I had a Spyderco folding knife clipped over the underwire of my bra. I always carried at least 2 blades at court. Just a rule. The guns would only be allowed in certain parts of the siding, the ferry mounds. But I'd be allowed to keep the knives. Before the banquet tonight in my honor, so Doyle informed me, I'd add more blades. A girl could never have too much jewelry or too much weaponry. I know that's right. Doyle had mortal dread in the back sheath, the hilt sticking out from under his shoulder for a cross draw like a gun shoulder holster. He had his own gun bag full of weapons. When I asked him why he hadn't used them against the squaw, he said nothing else I had with me would bring them true death. I wanted them to know that I was serious. Frankly, I've always found that blowing a hole bigger than a fist out someone's back lets them know you're serious. But many of the guards feel that guns are inferior weapons. They carry them out among the humans, but the guns are almost never used among ourselves, except in times of war. That Doyle had even packed a gun meant that things were bad. Or maybe there'd been a policy change while I was away. If the other guards were carrying guns, then I'd know. The plane dipped so suddenly that even I gasped. Doyle moaned. "Talk to me, Meredith." "About what?" "Anything," he said, voice tight. "We could talk about last night," I said. He opened his eyes, just enough to glare at me. The plane took another dive. His eyes snapped shut, but he almost whispered, "Tell me a story." "I'm not very good at stories." "Please, Meredith." He called me Meredith. An improvement. "I can tell you a story that you already know." "Fine," he said. "My grandfather on my mother's side is Uar the Cruel. Other than being a complete and utter bastard, he earned the name because he fathered 3 sons that were monsters even by Fae standards. No blooded Fae woman would sleep with him after the birth of his sons. He'd been told that he could father normal children if he found someone of Fae blood who would willingly sleep with him. I peered at Doyle's closed eyes and blank face. "Please continue," he said. "Gran is half brownie and half human. She was willing to sleep with him because she wanted more than anything to be a part of the Sealy court." Silently, because it wasn't part of the story, I didn't blame Gran. She more than even myself understood what it was like to tread 2 very different worlds. The plane had straightened, but was still shuddering as wind buffeted it from every side. A rough flight. "Are you bored yet?" I asked. "Anything you say will be most fascinating until we reach the ground in safety." "You know, you're cute when you're scared." Oh, she's fine. He did open the eyes to slits. Glare. Close eyes again. "Please continue." "Gran bore 2 beautiful twin girls. Uar's curse was ended, and Gran was one of the ladies of the court, Uar's wife. As a matter of fact, before she'd borne him children. To my knowledge, my grandfather never touched his wife. It is in quotation marks. That's what I'm going with. His wife again. He was one of the fine and shining gentlemen. Gran was a little too common for him now that he was curse-free. He's a powerful warrior, Doyle said, eyes still closed. Who? Uar. That's right. You must have fought against them in the wars in Europe. He was a very worthy opponent. Are you trying to make me feel better about him? The plane had actually flown straight and relatively smoothly for about 3 minutes. It was enough for Doyle to open his eyes completely. He sounded very bitter just now. My grandfather beat my gran for years. He thought if he hurt her enough, he'd drive her away from court. Because legally, he couldn't divorce her without her permission. He couldn't put her aside because she'd given him children. Why did she not simply leave him? Because if she were no longer Uar's wife, she would no longer be welcome at court. They would never have allowed her to take her daughters with her. She stayed to make sure her children would be safe. The queen was most puzzled when your father invited your mother's mother to accompany the 2 of you into exile. Gran was his lady of the house. She oversaw the household for him. She was a servant then. It was my turn to glare. No, she was. She was his right hand. They raised me together for those 10 years. When you left the court this last time, so did your grandmother. She opened a bed and breakfast. I've seen the write-ups in the magazines. Victoria, good housekeeping. Brownie's bed and breakfast, where you can be waited on, cooked for by an ex-member of the royal court. Have you not spoken with her since you left 3 years ago? He asked. I haven't contacted anyone, Doyle. It would have endangered them. I disappeared. That means I left everything and everyone behind. There are jewels, heirlooms, that were yours by right. The queen was amazed that you left with nothing but the clothes on your back. Any of the jewels would have been impossible to sell without it getting back to the courts. Same with the heirlooms. You had money that your father had put away for you. He was watching me now, trying to understand, I think. I have been on my own for 3 years. A little over. I have taken nothing from anyone. I have been a woman on my own, free of obligation to anyone of the faith, which means you can invoke virgin rights when you return to court. I nodded. Exactly. Virgin in the old Celtic ideal was a woman who stood on her own, owing nothing to anyone for a space of time. 3 years was minimum for claiming it at court. To be virgin meant that I was outside any old feuds or grudges. I could not be forced to take sides on any issue because I stood apart from all of it. It was a way of being in the court without being of the court. I like that. She's smart. Very good, princess. Very good. You know the law and how to use it for your benefit. You are wise as well as polite. A true marvel for an unseelie royal. Being virgin allowed me to make hotel reservations without risking the queen's anger, I said. She was puzzled as to why you did not wish to stay at the court. After all, you want to return to us, do you not? I nodded. Yes, but I also want some distance until I see just how safe I'm going to be at court. She would risk the queen's anger, he said. I looked at him, searching his eyes so I would catch whatever he thought of my next words. Prince Kel would risk her anger because she's never seriously punished him for anything he's ever done. Doyle's eyes tightened when I mentioned Kel's name, but nothing more. If I hadn't been watching for it, I wouldn't have noticed any reaction at all. Kel is her only heir, Doyle. She won't kill him. He knows that. Doyle gave me empty eyes. What the queen does or does not do with her son and heir is not for me to question. Don't give... Sorry, y'all. Battery died. And this is like not even the same day. My bad. The lighting changed and like I don't know how to fix it anymore. Ah! Ready? Let me just read this before like this whole thing falls apart. Okay? So don't give me the party line, Doyle. Not to me. We all know what Kel is. A powerful she-prince who has the ear of the queen, his mother. Doyle said, and the tone in his voice was a warning to match the words. He has only one hand of power, and his other abilities are not that great. He is the prince of old blood, and I, for one, would not want him using that ability on me, on the dueling ground. He could bring every bleeding wound I have had in over 1,000 years of battle on me at once. Yes, okay. I didn't say it wasn't a frightening ability, Doyle, but there are others with more powerful magic. She that can bring true death with a touch. I've seen your flame eat over a sheep, seen it eat them alive. And you killed the last sushi that challenged you to a duel, Princess Meredith. I cheated, I said. No, you did not. You merely used tactics that they were not prepared for. It is the mark of a good soldier to use weapons available to him or her. We looked at each other. Does anyone but the queen know that I have the hand flesh now? Sholto knows, and his slua. It will not be a secret by the time you land. It may frighten any would-be challengers, I said. To be trapped forever as a shapeless ball of flesh, never to die, never to age, merely to continue. Oh yes, princess. I think they will be afraid. After Griffin left you, many became your enemy because they thought you powerless. They will all be remembering the insults they heaped upon you. They'll be wondering if you have come back holding a grudge. Well, I wouldn't say use that on them, but shit, you might teach them a thing or two about being rude to people just because they're stronger than them. Huh? Bullies. Anyway, let me keep going. I'm invoking virgin rights. That means that I have a clean slate, and so do they. If I acknowledge an old vendetta, then I lose my status as a virgin, and I'll be sucked right back into the middle of all this crap. I shook my head. No, I'll leave them alone if they leave me alone. You're wise beyond your years, princess. I am 33, Doyle. That is not a child by human years. He laughed, a small, dark chuckle that made me think of what he'd looked like last night with half his clothes gone. Girl. Fine. Anyway, let me not, okay? I tried to keep the thought out of my face, and I must have succeeded because his own expression didn't change. Whew. I remember when Rome was merely a wide spot in the road. Goddamn. Okay, princess. 33 years is a child to me. Well, I can't argue with that. Dude is old. I let what I was thinking into my eyes. I don't remember you treating me like a child last night. Let him know, girl. Don't mess with me. Okay. He looked away, not meeting my eyes. That was a mistake. If you say so. I looked out the window, watching the clouds. Doyle was determined to pretend that last night never happened. I was tired of trying to talk about it when he so obviously didn't want to discuss it. The flight attendant came back. This time she knelt, skirt tight across her thighs. She smiled up at Doyle, magazines spread in a fan across one arm. Would you like something to read? She laid her free hand on his leg, slid her hand along the inside of his thigh. Oh my God, that is sexual harassment, sis. What are you doing? No, rude. Sexual assault and sexual... Woo, girl, you're going to get fired today. Her hand was an inch from his groin. When Doyle grabbed her wrist and moved her hand. Madam, please. Ooh. Yeah, that's right. Rude. She knelt closer to him, one hand on either of his knees, the magazines partially hiding what she was doing. She leaned in so that her breasts pressed against his legs. Please, she whispered, please. It's been so long since I was in front of you. That got my attention. How long has it been? I asked. She blinked as if she couldn't quite concentrate on me with Doyle sitting so close. 6 weeks. Who was it? She shook her head. I can keep a secret. Just don't deny me. She looked up at Doyle. Please. Oh, girl, you addicted, huh? She was elf-struck. If a she has sex with a human and doesn't try to tone down the magic, they can turn the human into a sort of addict. Humans that are elf-struck can actually wither and die from want of the touch of she flesh. God damn. Okay. Whew. Okay. Now, I understand, sis. I'm sorry, but still. I leaned close to Doyle's ear. Close enough that my lips brushed the edges of his earrings. I had a horrible urge to lick one of those earrings. But I didn't. Be serious, sis. Be serious. Compose yourself. Ugh. It was just one of those wicked urges you get occasionally, I whispered. Take her name and phone number. We'll need to report her to the Bureau of Human and Fae Affairs. Doyle did what I asked. The flight attendant had tears of gratitude shining in her eyes when Doyle took her name, number, and address. She actually kissed his hand. Might have done more if the male flight attendant hadn't ushered her away. God damn, girl. Poor you. It's illegal to have sex with humans without protecting their minds, I said. Yes, it is, Doyle said. It would be interesting to know who her she-lover was. Lovers, I think, Doyle said. I wonder if she always flies the LA to St. Louis when. Doyle looked at me. She might know who'd been flying back and forth to Los Angeles often enough to set up the cult that's worshipping them. One man doesn't constitute a cult, I said. You told me the woman mentioned a handful of others, some of them with ear implants, or perhaps even she themselves. That's still not a cult. It's a wizard with followers, a she-worshipping coven at best, or a cult at worst. We have no idea how many people were involved, Princess, and the man who could have answered the question is dead. Funny how the police didn't mind me leaving the state with a murder investigation hanging over my head. I would not at all be surprised if your aunt, our queen, made some phone calls. She can be quite charming when she wants to be. And when that fails, she's scary as hell, I said. He nodded. That too. The male flight attendant took care of first class for the rest of the flight. The woman never came near us again until we were getting off the plane. Then she took Doyle's hand and said, voice urgent, You will call me, won't you? Doyle kissed her hand. Oh, yes, I will call. And you will answer every question that I put to you honestly, won't you? She nodded, tears trailing down her face. Oh, my God, poor woman. Anything you want. Okay. I had to drag Doyle away from her. I whispered, I'd take a chaperone with me when you go to question her. I had not intended going alone, he said. He looked at me, our faces very close because we were whispering. I learned very recently that I am not inaccessible to sexual advances. His look was very frank, open, the look I wanted on the plane. I will have to be more careful in the future. With that, he raised up, so he was too tall for whispering, and began to walk down the narrow hallway toward the airport proper. I followed him. We left the noise of engines behind and walked toward the sound of people. So that was chapter 19 of A Kiss of Shadows. Again, if y'all want to know what happened before, as in what happened last night, and if y'all want to know what happened later, as if they did do the deed, pick the book up, read it. I'm telling you, political intrigue, diplomacy, jealousy, all kinds of crazy stuff. Let's not curse on this channel. And yeah, so thank you guys for watching. And I'll see you in the next one.